Greetings, guitar enthusiasts, and welcome to the Indianapolis Society of the Classical Guitar's first ever live stream event. My name is John Alvarado. I'm president of the Indianapolis Society of the Classical Guitar, and it's my pleasure to have with us tonight a very special guest, composer, performer, and clinical assistant professor of music at the University of Illinois, Guido Sanchez Portuguez. And Guido, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you, John, and thank you everybody at the Indianapolis Society for the Classical Guitar for inviting me and having me today. It's an honor to be pioneering this online presentation, and I think that we're going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. Before we jump in with it, though, I just wanted to say a few words to our audience about tonight's program and a few words about the ISCG. So, those of you who've kind of followed us for a while, you know that we've been here in Indianapolis. The Indianapolis Society of the Classical Guitar is Indy's longest-running classical guitar series and program devoted to supporting and promoting classical guitar. And so, when we had to shut down the season due to the coronavirus, it was really heartbreaking for us because in 15 years that I've been with the organization, we've only one time had to cancel an event, again due to circumstances beyond our control. So to lose an entire season really kind of it was a hard thing for us to accept. But of course, we understand why, and we fully support the measures to try to limit the spread of the virus and do our part. But we wanted to make sure that we still had a way to continue our mission of supporting and promoting the classical guitar. And one of the ideas that we had come up with, and thanks to some of the feedback from our members, was doing some of these programs of presenting music and composers and guitarists. And so after tonight, we certainly welcome the feedback from any of our friends and our members and our followers. Those of you who are already on our list, you know how to reach us. But if you don't, you can join us. You can visit our website at indianaguitar.org. And there's a contact information sheet there. Of course, you can also leave comments in this video here. So after tonight, this video will be left up on our YouTube channel. And so you can, if there's pieces that you want to hear again, you can certainly visit again. And if you think there's people who would enjoy hearing it, we'd appreciate you sharing it with them. And again, feel free to comment and let us know if these are something that you'd like to see more of. Which brings us back to tonight's program. So Guido has prepared for us a series of excellent videos of his compositions and is going to give us something of a guided tour through the pieces that we're going to be hearing tonight. One thing that I want to point out is that a lot of the music you're going to hear tonight is actually also available on Guido's solo guitar CD, Trasos, which is available on pretty much all the major streaming sources, isn't it, Guido?
It is.
And yeah, and it's available for sale on Amazon as well. And you can find links to all that information on his website at guidoguitar.com as well. So with that, let's just jump right into tonight's program and the music. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about, Guido, was your role as both a composer and a guitarist, because of course, while classical music has a long history of composers / performers, and I would think it's fair to say in the last couple of generations that has begun to subside, and there's people tend to specialize in one or the other, because both are such a huge commitment. So I wonder if you talk to us a little bit how you came to really commit yourself to doing both.
Well, it all goes back to my beginnings as a guitar player, playing electric guitar back in '89, which is when I started, the summer of '89. And the reason I play guitar is because I wanted to form a metal band, and I ended up doing that. And as when you play in a metal band, or when you play in a rock band, or when you have your own creative output, you are always thinking about like writing your own songs. So you're writing your own music, you're writing your own lyrics, you're writing your own riffs, and it started basically just accumulating. I started writing more and more and more pieces for this band. Then when I started switching into other styles like jazz, flamenco, and fusions of that sort in the mid 90s, I also started writing my own music for acoustic guitar. Like you can think of Strunz and Farah, or you can think of Aldi Meola and Paco de Lucia and John McLaughlin, what they used to do. And I was heavily influenced by that during that time. We're talking 93, 94. And I also wanted to write my own pieces of music in that style, like a flamenco-ish fusion style with a pick. And I always, ever since I had the guitar on my lap, I always wanted to create with it, to make my own things. So at some point, I had to think if I really wanted to go into music, and that was when I was a senior in high school. And finally, I made the decision to go into college. And then when I got into college, I was faced with the reality that you had to choose, right? You either, and especially back then, now you have some more options, but back then it was a little bit more. I don't want to use the word conservative, but it was a little bit conservative in the
Right. Yeah.
sense that you have to do performance or you do composition, or
Hmm.
and if you're going to do performance, it'll be mostly just like classical music, classical guitar.
Hmm.
So I obviously wanted to expand my technique and enhance my technique and learn about the repertoire and become a better musician. So I ended up becoming a classical guitarist and placing an emphasis on the performance part of it. But I never stopped writing music. And as soon as I started playing classical guitar, I started composing classical guitar music. And, it all started that way. And for me, it's never been separate, it's always been together. I play and I write, and it's the same thing.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, let's take a listen to one of them. Let's listen to. So we're going to kick it off with the Rondo de Vidrio. Let's give that one a listen.
All right.
All right, we're back. And what a great way to kick off the program, Guido. That's such a great melody and it's such a great mood in that piece. I really like that one. So the next three that we're going to listen to are part of a larger sonata for guitar. We're going to take them one at a time, though, and kind of talk about them each. So I know the first one is the Tientos, which, of course, the Tientos has such a long tradition going back to the 15th century. But then also, still being continued today. I always think the one I always think of is the one by Maurice Ohana, of course, the great Tientos for guitar. But
Right.
why did you choose to use that one for the first movement, and what were you hoping to do with the Tientos? Because it's such a free form.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that when I wrote that sonata, and we will get to hear all three movements, when I wrote it, I actually started by writing the third movement. I didn't know that it was going to become a sonata. At that point, the third movement, which is the toccata, was going to be a standalone piece, and it was a standalone piece for about a couple of years. I played it, and then I decided I'm gonna complement this with more music because I think that I really like this style and this language, which was at that point I was really trying to experiment with a newer language, newer for me, because this piece that we just heard, the Rondo de vidrio, is like very romantic, very tonal, and I wanted to experiment with something a little bit more, with more audacity in terms of like the harmonic style and melodies and rhythms and all that because I've always been a fan of 20th century music and so I decided to write the what became the first movement, which was the one that we were about to hear, Tiento, and it started by me just like trying things out, which I think is what that word means, or the spirit of the word is that you're tiento is that you're trying, you're feeling things out, and you're like almost improvising. So a lot of the preludes of the Renaissance were like that. In Italy they used to call them ricercare, and the tiento in Spanish. Preambulo, sometimes prelude, introitus. I don't like an entrance, right? So something that's opening a big, or
Mhm.
something else that's going to open for something else. So that's why I decided to use that name. But then in the end, after I started discovering all the things that I wanted to include, then the composing part hits in, and you have to start tailoring and putting all the parts together so that they make sense, and then if you pay attention to it, and for people that know about this, it follows kind of like a loose sonata form. You can hear a group of themes at the beginning, then a middle section which is developing all the ideas, and then a recapitulation of those groups at the end with a coda, with a new section, newer material at the very end. So it's somewhat regular sonata form as a first movement.
Well, let's take a listen to it. All right. That was a great one too. So the next one is a pretty big change of pace on that one. Then we go into the Planctus, which of course is a type of lament or like a dirge, and yours certainly has a sense of melancholy and kind of seriousness to it. But did you have anything particular in mind with this one when you were writing this one?
With the Planctus, well, first of all, yeah, you're exactly right about that. A Planctus is like a medieval form of a lament,
Mhm.
and they usually like back in early Middle Ages, they used to write like if a king died or somebody important died, a composer that wanted to pay homage to that person, they would write a Planctus or a plan, I think is what the Germans used to call it, and it's basically just that. It's a lament, it's mourning, right? The
Yeah.
loss of somebody. But when I wrote it, I'm not lamenting for anybody on that particular piece. I just felt that it has a sense of longing. It has a sense of it does have a sense of mourning, but not for nothing or for no one in particular. And it's very introspective. Especially it's like it has two bookends, which are like we can call that the section, like A section, and then when it repeats at the end. But then there's that section in the middle, which is a lot more dynamic and kind of like a I don't know, like a it becomes extroverted at that point. So it's a very introverted opening and closing with an extroverted section in the middle. And when I was playing and when I was writing it, it gave me the feeling of something like something very serious, but serious and sad at the same time. So that's why I called it the Planctus. And I think it's. I also tune the guitar differently, which is something. It's a scordatura, which means you're tuning the guitar in a non-standard way. I tune down the second string from B to B flat. So then the tuning of the six strings end up being from the highest to the lowest: E, B flat, G, D, A, and E. So that also provides some really cool alternatives for really cool sonorities.
Yeah. And before we listen to that, it looks like there is a question about the previous one. Somebody's asking, Lucas Finney wants to know what the time signature was of that one. So
I'm, well, I mean, I know that he's probably laughing right now. Luke is a very dear friend of mine, and
yeah.
I played. He invited me when he was the head of the guitar studies in Swanee in Tennessee. He invited me to play a concert there. Must have been like 5 or 6 years ago, and I played that sonata for them, and it was one of the first times that I played that sonata. I then later I played it for you guys, and there's another big story that we have to talk about.
Oh, right. Of course.
But yeah, I played it for them that one time, and then Luke was simply astonished at how incredibly difficult it is, and we always joke because we say when I write music, I write it so that I can play it,
Right.
and nobody
Right.
else
Yeah.
plays it. But yeah, so what time signature is it? It's a mixture. It's Stravinsky style. It's changing all over the place. In fact, it doesn't have a metric signature on the
Oh, wow.
score. Is a
Yeah.
free. It doesn't have a meter at the beginning. It's just a free meter writing.
Yeah. A lot of us guitarists just do that anyway, all the time, don't we?
It comes naturally.
That's right. So, okay, let's go ahead. Let's listen to that blank tooth.
Hmm.
All right, Guido, that's great. So that takes us to the third movement of the piece, and I know, I mean, this is a toccata, so they're always going to be a little bit, kind of virtuosic pieces anyway. But I remember a particularly challenging performance of this that you had for us a couple years back. You want to tell people about that story?
Yeah, it's one of the most epic stories that I have to tell, and I'll take this story, this anecdote to my grave, to my dying day, and that's for people. I'm assuming that a lot of the people watching right now are guitarists or have some sort of affiliation with the guitar, and they know about the fingernails. But if you don't know anything about classical guitar, is that our lives depend on our fingernails and having strong and nicely shaped long fingernails. So for us to have some sort of accident with a fingernail is tragic, to say the least. And if it happens during practice time, then you feel awful, you feel bad, but you can go fix it, and it's no big deal. If it happens right before a concert or like a day or two before a concert, it's awful, it's horrible, but you can still fix it ahead of time. But if it happens during a concert, then that's a whole new different level. And
Right.
that's exactly what happened to me playing this sonata. As you can tell, there's some really intense right hand parts here and there. During one of those scales, one of my fingernails broke, and I think it was the ring finger, which the reason for it breaking was because I made the stupidest mistake of my life by having an acrylic fingernail placed on that fingernail a few months before, and I didn't know that it was going to take so long for the fingernail to recover from the acrylic chemicals.
Yeah, it really weakens the
So
nail, doesn't it? Yeah.
yes, right, when that thing comes off, your fingernail is literally just like a little piece of paper. And it took me a long time to recover, and I decided that this was probably in the summer, so our concert was sometime around like this time, like in the fall, October, November.
Yeah.
And I by that point the fingernail was almost recovered. It was probably at an 80% recovered, and I decided to go for it like that. Maybe I should have used a plastic fingernail or something. In hindsight, I think that I should have done that. But so what happened is I'm playing this, and in the middle of one of those scales, the fingernail goes away, and I kept playing the rest of the movement. I was probably like halfway through the movement. I can't remember if it was the first movement or the third movement. It was either or, which are the
Yeah.
most intense movements of this sonata.
Yeah.
And I had to finish the movement without this fingernail, which is, I don't know if you guys have had that problem before, but to have to finish a piece because you don't have any other choice with a broken
Yeah.
fingernail is like the whole thing is like you're in a personal hell at that moment. So I finished the piece and I apologize to the audience, and I tell them about the fingernail, and John comes running like lightning fast from all the way up the last row, and he says, "Come with me." And we ran into his office, which is I think on the second or third floor of
The
that
third floor.
building.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So,
he had this huge kit. Like, I'm not kidding you guys. It was like something like a box like this big, and he
yeah.
opens it, and it's like it had like 100 different types of plastic fake fingernails,
Mm. Yeah.
and super glue and all that stuff. So we like immediately like started gluing a fingernail. I filed it. We must have done that. There's probably a Guinness record for that, John, and I think we
I've never seen
broke
one go on
it.
that fast. I've never seen one go on that fast before. And
We
what
fixed
impre-
my
yeah.
fingernail in like
Yeah.
1 minute or something
Yeah.
like that, and then we
And that,
ran back down, and I
yeah.
sat and I was like agitated, and
Mhm.
because we just came out from running, and I
Yeah.
started playing the toccata, and I came out like feeling so, I don't want to, I want to say angry. So there's like a lot of rage there, and I
Yeah.
basically just came back with a vengeance, and I just like shredded through the toccata in a way that I
Yeah.
had never done it before or after. I
Mhm.
think that was probably the best time I've ever played the toccata, and you guys are gonna see the movement right now, and you're gonna see why it's so important that you're in top shape and you have all your fingernails with you to
Mhm.
play it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
think what
that
really,
was a funny story.
what really blew my mind when you did it was that you didn't hold back. You came out, there was no testing it out. It just came out guns blazing. So let's take a listen to it.
All right.
fantastic. Yeah, that's so, and that's you playing with full set of nails, all in good condition in that particular video there, right? So,
Yes, yes,
yeah,
I have to say that.
yeah,
I have fingernails there.
yeah. And so such a great piece. And the next one is such a totally different mood than that right there. It takes us into the Trasos. I think, I mean, I love all these pieces, but this one actually really kind of stands out to me as one that I like. And it's a shorter one. It's not really a large piece, but there's just something about the kind of dreamy, like introspectiveness to it. And the title even kind of implies that, doesn't it? Like it kind of implies like strokes and like brush
Yeah.
strokes, right? Like artistry and
Exactly.
like you're
Yeah.
exploring colors. But is that what you were going for with this?
Totally. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. And when I wrote it, I was, you know, I haven't talked about like the time when I was writing these pieces. The first one that you guys heard today, the Rondo, I wrote it back. The dates are showing up there, but it's, you can tell like different stages of my life. Like when I wrote the Rondo in 2000, that's probably like the first piece that I would consider official from my catalog for guitar, and I was still trying to discover the guitar as a harmonic solo instrument. So that's why my harmonies and my melodies are there, that are there, are a little bit more traditional. But Trasos, I wrote it 5 years after that. So there's 5 years of experience between Rondo and Trasos. And this is when I was already a master's student at IU in 2005. And I've always loved the style of Poulenc,
Mm,
Francis Poulenc.
yeah.
And he has one piece for guitar. I don't know if
Mm,
guitarists know about it, the famous Saraband
yeah.
for guitar. And it's a super short, almost insignificant piece
Mm,
of music in comparison with like everything else that's out there by him and by other composers. But that piece of music in such a short span speaks so much, and it's so gorgeous and so beautiful that I
mm,
always wanted to write something that reminded me of that. So I would say that I was inspired by Poulenc's Saraband for guitar, although the language and the form and pretty much everything doesn't have to do anything with
yeah.
Poulenc's
Yeah.
Saraband. They're completely
Yeah.
different in every single aspect. But
Yeah.
but the fact that that piece exists is what inspired me to write
Yeah.
Trasos. And Trasos is another rondo. It has
Mm,
a recurring theme, with some development in the middle and in between the themes, and the chords, that the harmonies here are very impressionistic. Some chords that you could even say are jazzy type of chords. So, and yes, it has that ethereal, dreamy quality to it.
yeah. That's really interesting to hear you say about this, about the Poulenc, because I mentioned this of the pieces. This one really stands out to me, and I love that
Hmm.
Poulenc piece too. But like you said, they're not really similar, but you
No.
can see how one might have kind of inspired you, or at least in this kind of direction. So yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're familiar with that Poulenc piece, that kind of keep that in mind as you hear this one. So let's take
Hmm.
a listen to it.
All right.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Nice, very nice, Guido.
And
Um,
I wanted to say something, John.
yeah,
She never likes to take credit for all the things that she does to help me. But I have to give credit to my wife Susan for because she's the genius behind these videos. Like
oh,
all those things that you see in the videos, like
mhm,
the angles, the takes, the effects, if there's effects and things. That's all coming from her
yeah,
and from her mind, and I wouldn't be able to do this without her help. So it really means a lot, and I wanted
mhm,
to give her credit because she deserves it.
that's great. So, if memory serves, didn't you say that she was also the one who kind of pushed you to do that series of videos you did for the 20 inspirations when the CD cover kind of things
Yes,
went out?
yes, yes.
Wasn't it her too?
The
Yeah.
Facebook challenge.
Yeah, yeah. If people aren't, I mean, surely most people are familiar with the Facebook challenge with the 20 albums that influenced you, and you had such a great take on that. Can you tell everybody about what you did? That was the most creative way of approaching that one I've ever seen. It was fantastic.
Well, it's
Yeah,
also her idea.
yeah,
Everybody, if you guys remember back in the summer when the pandemic started, lots of challenges started showing up on Facebook, and one of them was post the 20 album covers that influenced you the most, or post blah blah blah, and
mhm,
everybody was posting album covers, and I did it too because I got challenged by like 3 or 4 different people to do
yeah,
it. So I was posting my album covers, and I was just basically following the fad,
mhm,
and and then Susie, she was like, dude, that's too easy for you. You gotta actually play that music, make videos of those songs, or take a song from those albums and record a video, and then that will be a challenge suited for you.
yeah,
And so she challenged me to do that, and I accepted the challenge. It was a huge undertaking because you have to learn the pieces, and some of them weren't that easy, and
yeah,
sometimes I had to like rearrange things, and I was able to make like 4 or 5 of those videos with her help, obviously.
yeah.
But I mean that took me all summer to do that.
And you
So
did double and triple duty on some of them, didn't you? With percussion and
yeah, yeah,
bass
yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
There's one.
That's
The
great.
first one that we posted is a lot of fun because it's Rocket Man by Elton John,
Hmm.
and we filmed me playing like a rhythm guitar, me playing a lead guitar, and me playing guitar and singing at the same time. And then she, with her magic and video editing, she was able to put it together so that it actually looks like it's a band playing,
Yeah.
of 3 Guidos playing Rocket Man and singing Rocket Man. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to do,
Yeah,
and
it was fun to watch.
and at the same time to pay homage to all these incredible artists that inspired me from since I was a kid, a young boy.
Well, those actually kind of segue nicely, I think, into the last piece that we're going to do because it's got some of that. I mean, you can really hear some of that popular and rock music influence in this one here, but yet still very much a part also of your classical voice is very much in this composition too. The Epilogue. Was there anything you wanted to tell people about this particular piece?
No, I mean it's just here you're gonna see a completely different change of style, and it's more like you say, more. It's closer to popular music. It's kind of like I would have to probably say it's crossover. It's crossover classical slash popular,
Mhm.
and it's the only piece that doesn't only feature the guitar. This is me with an incredibly talented percussionist from Puerto Rico, Harold Agosto, and Harold used to collaborate with me. He was here in Champaign for a while, but then now he moved to New York, and he's working in New York, teaching there and freelancing, and he's an amazing percussionist, and he was immediately able to follow all my ideas and all my suggestions. So we had a really good connection as a duet, and we even did some of the Brouwer etudes. We reimagined them with percussion. So there's actually I posted some videos. I might have to repost those of me playing with Harold. Etude number 1 and etude number 6 by Brouwer with cajon, with
Mhm.
percussion, and they sound amazing. They sound really, really good. So Harold and I were very fruitful. We had really, really good collaborations, and he recorded this piece with me that I included in the reissue of my album Trasos because the first one doesn't have Epilogue. The second
Okay.
one we recorded that one, and it's the only piece in that album that has an instrument that's not guitar. So he's playing here. He's playing the drums.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like Latin rock ish because you can hear clave and you can hear some Latin elements, but you can also see the drum set, and it's kind of like a really cool jazzy fusion with guitar. So it's really cool. I hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah. So real quick before we do that, I just wanted to say a couple words before we finish off because this will be our last piece for the night. So first of all, I want to thank you, Guido, for taking the time to do this tonight. This was, I think, a great way to do our first live program, and I'm really happy with the way it went. So thank you very much. Um,
Absolutely, it's been a pleasure.
and I also want to remind everybody that the video will be up here. We're going to leave it on our site after this. It'll disappear for a while as YouTube does its whole kind of behind the scenes editing thing. But then it'll be back, and come back and watch as much as you want. Share it with friends. Post it anywhere you like. Let people hear Guido's great music. And I also want to remind you that if you want to hear, also if you want to take it on the go with you, that you can purchase it from his album Trasos from Amazon, or you can catch it on the streaming sources. And you have other recordings that are available on your website as well, don't you, Guido? On
Yes, I have
guidoguitar.com.
other recordings,
Mm-hmm.
not of me solo, but I just
Sure.
released a new album. It hasn't been officially released. It's music for three guitars. It's only for three guitars with a trio that I used to have in Costa Rica before I moved into the U.S. And it's a full suite for three guitars. It's really cool, very nice. It'll come out over the next month or so.
What about the scores, Guido? Are those published
Yes, the
for the?
majority of these scores are well. There, I mean, some of them are published, some of them aren't, but they're all ready. If somebody wants, excuse me, if somebody wants a score, they can just contact me, and I'll very gladly send them their way.
Okay, and they can just do that through your website.
Yeah, through my
Okay,
website or
and
through my email. My email is very easy to remember: gsguitar@illinois.edu. So my two initials, GS, guitar at Illinois.
great. And maybe we can put that. Maybe we'll put that in the details below the video here once it gets finally posted up, along with a link to your website as well. So,
Yeah.
so great. Thanks so much, Guido, and we hope everybody enjoyed it. And I hope you enjoy this last piece, Epilogue. Thanks, Guido.